Bees pollinate our crops, so anything bad that happens to bees could affect our food supplies. Arizona researchers are trying to build a vaccine against a disease that devastates hives. Stressed out, new mother? The science of psychology is learning and teaching new strategies to stop you from feeling overwhelmed. And strange, new, distant planets. A lab here on Earth is working out a way to know what those new worlds are made of. Next on Catalyst. This YouTube edition of Catalyst is brought to you by Arizona PBS and Arizona State University. Life has problems. Science turns them into questions that can lead to solutions and even innovations. This is Catalyst, shaping the future through science research at Arizona State University. Many scientists enjoy science fiction, but have a hard time believing in UFOs and aliens visiting Earth. Now, that doesn't mean their minds are closed and they're not willing to look. Right now, there's a new space probe getting in position between the Earth and the Moon. A probe which will vastly expand the search for what are called exoplanets. Planets that are circling stars far away from our solar system. Planets so far away, in fact, we'll never be able to visit them. Yet the pictures and data coming to us from probes and cameras in space can be used to give us a good idea of what these exoplanets are made of, and even whether they might be able to support life.
My name is Cayman Unterborne, and I'm an exploration postdoc fellow at Arizona State, and I study planets around other stars and their potential geology.
Dr. Unterborne and his team of researchers have been looking at a small group of planets in a distant solar system called TRAPPIST-1.
TRAPPIST-1 system is 7 Earth-sized planets that were found around M-Dwarf star, which is a star much smaller than our sun, and they're all close to Earth size, so that makes them really interesting candidates for potentially habitable planets.
Scientists call them exoplanets.
A lot of the things we're doing at ASU is trying to understand how geology and chemistries that are different than the Earth. We have a lot of information about our solar system, but once we start looking to places that are very different, we don't know a lot. So at ASU, we're doing a lot of experiments and models and trying to think outside of our own solar system to understand what the potential diversity of planets could be in the universe.
The team works here, inside this lab at Arizona State University's School of Earth and Space Exploration, to study the possible chemical compositions of those faraway planets.
For an exoplanet, the really 2 main measurements I care about are its mass and its radius. And from those measurements, which the astronomers, when they discover a planet, generally try to get both, I take that and I use results from experiments on materials for the Earth. We can, in a lab, put a composition together that's indicative of, say, the Earth, this much magnesium, this much silicon, this much oxygen, and we can squeeze it down to high pressures and temperatures that are indicative of the conditions inside of these planets, whether it's light years away or right below our feet, and we can begin to understand the processes that would be going on there and simulate it in the lab here.
And it's not easy. They must put a tiny speck of a mineral in between 2 diamonds. Diamonds they call anvils. They squeeze the diamonds together, and that mimics the temperature and pressure that would be inside the core of one of those distant planets.
My group studies the minerals and rocks under very high pressure to understand planetary interiors. We use a very special device called diamond anvil cell, where we use natural diamonds, gemstones, to squeeze rocks and minerals to very high pressure. We put this assembly, 2 diamonds and sample inside a metal tubing shape, cylinders and pistons, and then we crank screws to bring pistons and cylinders together, and then pushing the 2 diamonds against each other. And that way we can squeeze very small samples into very high pressure. The pressure is something relevant to a very deep part of the planet. Diamond has the highest strength that we know among the materials that we know. You can find diamonds naturally, so it's relatively easy to get those diamonds. Then we cut into a shape that you normally see in a jewelry store with a couple of modifications in the shape. We actually shape them into sort of like an anvil shape So we have a little small space which is flat, and we pair them so that they actually can face to each other. And then we put little samples, in our case mostly minerals and rocks, in between those Anvil faces.
We usually use powder to sample, and what we do is we place the powder on a slide, and then we have to pick up individual grains. These are on the order of 5 to 10 microns across. So we're going to try to pick up this one right here. And there we go. We've grabbed the grain. It's on the needle tip right here. And now when we want to transfer to the diamond anvil cell, so we're going to put it on the top of the diamond and the flat area. And on screen here you can see the circle, which is the cullet of the diamond, where we place the sample. Alright, and now we see the cullet again. This is the grain we placed.
When you're going to increase the pressure, it's gonna be homogeneously distributed across the whole surface of each diamond. Then turning the screws a little bit, you can see that I am bringing the diamonds closer together carefully so that the diamonds are not going to come to contact, going the same amount of turns. Everything should nicely align together, and then you are ready for compression and heating.
Sometimes, to learn even more, they may then take that tiny mineral sample and hit it with a laser to make it hot. All of the data that comes from this work can give researchers a good idea of what's on and inside those exoplanets. A big, important question for them to answer. Could those exoplanets have water? Water that might support life.
And we found that the TRAPPIST-1 planets probably have a lot of water, especially compared to the Earth, hundreds more oceans worth of water on top. And we use that information to say something about how those planets traveled to where they are now and how long they took to form and other interesting aspects of their history that may have led them to be habitable or not habitable planets.
3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. The SpaceX Falcon 9 carrying TESS, a planet-hunting spacecraft that will search for new worlds beyond our solar system.
NASA recently launched a new satellite, the TESS mission. This new satellite will look for even more new planets and solar systems to study.
Working with Cayman, the primary interest there is that for the planets outside of the solar system, astronomers can measure the density, size, and mass of planet. And so to model what those planets are made of, they want to know what minerals can be stable in those planets.
Sometimes the way those materials react is completely unlike what would happen on Earth. Understanding what kinds of materials are stable on these newly discovered planets is the essence of Cayman and Dan's research. With their findings, we may better know if these planets are similar to Earth, and perhaps even whether they might be able to sustain life, maybe even human life.
It's an open question as to whether they could be habitable. They certainly have enough water to do it, but whether that can hurt them or help them is up for debate.
There's a lot of work that goes into feeding the more than 7 billion people that live here on Earth. Even before food goes from farm to table, it takes millions of tiny workers to turn a field of green into food. Bees have the big job of landing on plants and then transferring pollen from one flower to another. It may not seem like much, but this process helps form the fruits and vegetables we eat every day. Keeping bees healthy is crucial to keeping us fed, and that's why the plight of the honeybee has attracted researchers from Arizona State University.
We're working with the concept of vaccinating honeybees. And that in itself is a pretty amazing endeavor, because just going a few years back, you wouldn't think that it would be possible to vaccinate bees at all.
But bee vaccination may be possible. thanks to the experimental work done by researchers from around the world.
This is a kind of a collaboration with the University of Helsinki, the Norwegian University of Life Sciences, and ASU.
1/3 of our food comes thanks to the pollinators, right? So basically every third bite we take is thanks to the pollination. But right now what has been happening is increasing decline in pollinator numbers. What we are working on is a first ever edible vaccination for honeybees.
In the past 60 years, managed honeybee colonies in the United States have steadily declined from 6 million to 2.5 million. Many colonies have been decimated by a phenomenon called colony collapse disorder, as well as other diseases.
The disease that we're focusing on for this specific experiment is American foul brood, and as the name sounds, it's attacking the brood and it's turning into something foul. It will basically turn nice-looking honeybee larvae into something that looks like snot. Kind of to go-to solution at this point is to burn the colony. So you burn the bees, you burn the equipment, and not only is that very sad for the bees and the beekeeper, but it also results in a large economic loss for beekeepers who need to basically set fire to their livelihood.
One of my reason I am a beekeeper because I love honey. I was eating honey before be a beekeeper, so I don't want to kill one bees, but sometimes if it is important, we need to save rest of the our bees. I don't feel good when I burned or when I killed the bees, but sometimes we have to do this. And I say I'm gonna go to hell on the other world.
Honeybees don't have what's called acquired immunity. Acquired immunity is when exposed to disease or a pretend disease like a vaccine, you build an immunological memory in your body. But honeybees not having this adaptive immune system, you wouldn't think it would be possible to vaccinate them because they don't have immune memory. But what we found was that honeybees have the ability to have immunity pass from mom to baby. This is a vaccine that's going to be given to queens so they can transfer the vaccine material to their eggs and then subsequently larvae, and we're going to be protecting the larvae against the disease. Similar to when you vaccinate children against polio, and it's a liquid that you can put in just sugar. We start with colonies that have newly laid eggs that have hatched into very teeny tiny larvae. And we're going to steal them away from the colony. And we're going to put them in a queen cup, which is a much larger nursery cells, and we put them into colonies that don't have a queen and that are really highly motivated to grow a queen. We're placing these queens in individual small colonies with workers that can take care of the queens and prepare them for their mating flight. After a successful flight, she will return to the colony and she will start laying eggs. And we will monitor the health of the larvae as they grow in the lab, both from vaccinated mothers and from unvaccinated mothers.
And what we see that the larvae coming from vaccinated mothers have slightly less mortality than the larvae coming from control mothers. We don't have conclusive results yet, so I can't tell you, wow, what happened now after 1 month, but at this moment, it definitely looks promising. It seems to be that at least in some concentrations on some infection doses, we have evidence of protective feature of a vaccine. I think since honeybee mortality and pollinator mortality is a big problem and it's a rising problem. We are losing so many honeybees each year. But even if we could help this decrease a little bit, even a 10% would be good. We are one step closer creating a real vaccine for honeybees to be used by beekeepers to try to prevent diseases. We have already lined up several experiments for next year to be done in Norway, but also possibly here in Arizona. So we'll keep working, and we've done it now in bacterial disease system. We're gonna develop also vaccines against the fungal infections in honeybees and see what we could also possibly do about viral infections. I actually feel that I did something good and my education has been worth something, and I helped to save the world a little bit.
More career doors need to open to include women. But as we wait for that day, one job will always fall to women: motherhood. Adding a new baby to a full-time job can create one of the most demanding times in a woman's life. It's only in the past decade or so that science of psychology has started to ask, what needs to happen to keep a new mom supported and successful?
Before I was a mom, you might see that mom at Target and her kid's having a meltdown and you're kind of like, okay, you're a hot mess, like get your child together.
Whitney Ford admits starting out in her early career days designing and marketing clothing, she was pretty ignorant about the demands of motherhood. But that was before she began balancing work with the needs of one child and another one on the way.
Now as a mom, like I see another mother and I feel for them, you know.
The U.S. Bureau of Labor estimates more than 70% of mothers in the U.S. with young children work, and more than 3/4 work full-time. What's more, they work, on average, another 30 hours each week on household chores.
We both had similar burdensome careers, and we're bringing in similar financial contribution to the household. I was still the primary caretaker of the children and the primary caretaker of the household.
Not long ago, Budinger sought out Dr. Sunya Luther, a renowned doctor in clinical and developmental behavioral psychology.
My research, I guess, for the last 10 years or so, has been focused rather intensively on motherhood and what that feels like. So we realized in developmental psych, we ask mothers about what they do, what they don't do, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. But really no one thought to say, well, what does it feel like to be a mom? And that's rather a strange gap, given that this is such a life-transforming role. I mean, everything changes when you're a mom, and we really knew nothing about, or very little about, what motherhood felt like.
For Budinger, it was an awakening.
You have the priority of children and career and household, and I didn't realize it then, but I was really in pain. I was isolated and in need of connection, support.
It is that connection where Dr. Luther says women find resilience.
Resilience is doing well in the face of adversity. And with 80, 90 years worth of research on this topic, there is one take-home message that is the most powerful, and that is that resilience rests fundamentally on relationships. You see, so psychotherapy is great. You and I go to therapy after trying times. There's no question that it helps. Good therapists help you. But there is nothing that helps quite like love in your real life.
Budinger backed Dr. Luther, helping her launch the Authentic Connections program using relational psychotherapy, support groups to help women straddling high-stress work with high-demand home life.
The first thing I wanted to check in on was...
The pilot workshop started in 2016 at the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, providing women under high-level stress a safe space to reflect and enhance supportive relationships.
So how did that go for everyone?
It went pretty well. I reached out to my mom, who's one of my go-tos.
We spend so much time studying all of the other things we have to do in our life, studying how to be a physician, how to do this, how to be a mom, but we probably haven't put focused attention into how to balance those. So that was part of the activities, was to create your base of people, like your connections of people. And so I purposely reached out and straight out told my group of friends who I wanted to be part of it.
So as part of the study, we met weekly with other women who are physician mothers, and they were all women that I knew of, but I didn't really personally know. And they taught us the importance of how to build relationships and spend time to take care of yourself, caring for the caregiver. As a physician, we're caring for patients. As a mother, we're caring for our children. maybe we're caring for other relatives, and learning how to take advantage of care for ourselves or letting others care for us as well.
It is not just changing the women's lives individually. Eventually what happens is you begin to change the environment. For example, Mayo is so perfect, it's so professional. And what women talk about is that the culture has changed for them a little bit. There's a softness and gentleness that they see in a camaraderie, a sisterhood. They use the word sisterhood. So this is not just about benefiting you or I as an individual. It is also partly about changing the culture, the climate within which we work as professionals. What we've done with moms now, with the physician moms, we've also done groups with women graduate students or women students in STEM disciplines, so that it's not just for moms necessarily, it's for women in general.
That well-being is both in our work relationships, in our personal relationships, and in all of our other roles that we have. So I'm going to pass these around.
It taught me that I'm no longer in survival mode. I'm in living my life. Now I'm done with my training, and I need to prioritize my friendships with my friends.
Dr. Luther says those authentic connections are just as important for moms who work from home to stay near their children.
For kids, the most important thing to do if you want to help them is what? To help mom be healthy. It makes sense, you see, because your kids spend, a few hours at school with teachers, peers, whatever. Who's the single constant is the primary caregiver. And that is generally the mothers.
And just kind of having that group of women that you can just say like, oh man, my kid had a meltdown in Target today, or, he refuses to eat vegetables, or he's on a, milk strike or whatever. And it seems so trivial, like, to the outer world, but just having those other women that really get it and kind of can relate to you is, it's super helpful.
The same principles hold true when Dr. Luther combined her work with other researchers. Simply put, when it comes to happy moms and their kids,
the single most important thing for us to try and do is help mom be well psychologically, and how to do that is help mom be loved.
Wind is making it hard.
I'm Professor Vanessa Ruiz, and what you've been seeing is Catalyst, our show about shaping the future, how research creates real-life results. And because our lives always have new problems that science can help to solve, we'll be back soon with more stories.
Catalyst is supported by Knowledge Enterprise Development at Arizona State University, advancing entrepreneurship, innovation, discovery, and knowledge for the public good.
Subscribe to this channel to see more episodes of Catalyst on YouTube.